Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and the IG. And of course, listen to us on Anchor, which is now Spotify for podcasters, and or wherever you get your podcasts. We are out in the podcast realm on many of your favorite listening podcast systems. That was awkward. And of course, watch us on YouTube. And here we are on YouTube, and we are gearing up. We've been talking about it a little bit. It's the start of the Major League Baseball season as we sit here in upstate New York. I know at my house it is raining and turning to snow. So we have snowflakes out there after it was 50 degrees and sunny yesterday, typical central New York in spring. But baseball is here. The full season starts Thursday. Every team playing on Thursday, which I think is absolutely amazing. I really don't like how they stagger all of that. And it's like 5 teams this day, 4 teams that day. I'm just happy every team's playing the opening day, weather permitting, of course. That's always a debate this time of year. But it's not just me on the podcast. I mean, I could go wax poetic all day about the opening of the baseball season, but that's as much as I'm going to do for the moment. And of course, we got my sidekick co-host, Mike, there. How are you, Mike?
Dave, doing great. Thanks for taking a deep breath and letting someone else talk today. We appreciate that. And the other handsome SOB on the screen that you guys are looking at is a longtime think tank supporter and reporter from the Midwest, Brendan Burke. Brendan, how you doing tonight? What's going on out there in Detroit, Michigan?
I'm doing well. Like you guys said, I'm Brendan. For those who are listening, I host my own podcast. So I actually have my own podcast, which is about Christian music and music in general. So we've been tying in a lot of Christian music with mainstream music and then mainstream music with Christian music. So that's what I like to do on the side. And I'm just working, getting ready for baseball season. I gave up on my bracket after week 1. So I was like, okay, it's now baseball season. So it's getting ready for that.
Nice. And Brendan, what is the podcast name so folks can go and listen to it?
Our podcast name is Christian Music Bros Podcast. We're on Anchor, we're on Apple Music, we're on YouTube, and we're on like all the platforms from which you said. So
sweet.
Very nice. Very nice.
So
yeah, and they're new, but they're pulling big guests already. So there's some legs to this one. So that's good to hear, buddy. Also, big Detroit Tiger fan. You just said, baseball is your sport, and I know at one point you and I had talked that your dream job would be to be like social media person for the Detroit Tigers. So with that kind of expertise, I guess my first question, and I'll start with this: the Miguel Cabrera retirement tour. As a fan, how do you perceive how they're handling his retirement? And, what's the general consensus in the area about how this is going to go?
I personally am all for it because Niggy's been here since like 2006, 2007. I don't remember the exact year, so I'm sorry. But he's been there a while. Personally, I think it would have been better off last year, personally, because I feel like he's getting, I don't see him playing day to day every game this year. So I think it's a couple of years too late in my opinion, but I think he's going to get a good treatment. He's kind of going to have like that Albert Pujols type last year. He's might not going to have the season Albert Pujols had, but I can see like all the clubhouses giving him a gift. Like yesterday, he got the keys to Lakeland, Florida after his game last spring training game and everything.
Wow. Nice. It would be nice to see him honored, but as far as on the field, is he blocking a younger? He must be blocking somebody to come up and then take that roster spot.
Well, Spencer Torkelson was like the biggest one he was blocking, but Torkelson is now an everyday starter, so they're moving Miggy more towards like a DH/bench bat this year. So
excellent.
Yeah,
Dave, speaking of Spencer.
yeah. I will get to that in a second. Just not great numbers from Miggy last year, though. 254, 5 home runs, 43 RBIs, and a 622 OPS in 112 games. So, yeah, I have to believe some of the young talent coming up is definitely going to be able to contribute better numbers than that. But Brendan, talk to us about Torkelson. So he's first base. Only hit 203 last year in 110 games, but talk to us about Torkelson. And I know the Tigers as a team are very high on him and have some big expectations for him this year.
He's been doing really well this spring. He's been hitting the ball hard. I think he was batting like something around 260 last I checked. I don't really follow spring training, to be honest with you guys. Like I just like until like maybe the last couple of games, but I think that his potential is better this year. I think he's going to hit about 15 to 20 bombs this year. His average should only improve. So I'm thinking he's batting about 270 this year. I think would be about a fair estimate. And like I heard they're going to give him a chance at first base, his primary position, but if they need him to, they'll switch him to third base.
Nice. Yeah, you're spot on there. 268 in spring training. So right on the money. All right. The other player that I think is that there's been a lot of talk is Riley Green, right out in center field. What about his, continued development? And it seems like he's kind of going to be one of the anchors of the team this year.
With Al Avila gone, I wasn't a big fan of Al Avila, to be honest with you. Like some of his moves were questionable. Like the guys he got for Verlander, there's only like one left, and then JD. But I think Riley Green was one of his better moves as a GM, and I think he's like a future all-star in the making. He kind of reminds me of a Harrison Bader type. I don't know if that's a good, fair comparison, but like he has a little speed, he has a little athleticism in the field. And then
as Yankee fans,
yeah.
And then like he does have like a little power. Like he's gonna be your guy that'll probably hit you like maybe like 15 to 20 home runs like Torkelson. But I think his on base percentage would be better than Torkelson. That he has more discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I'm predicting like a 290 average this year, maybe a little less, 280, 290 in that range.
Well, I mean, he's got to pick it up. This is his third year since being drafted number 1 overall. He's got to start showing something here, right? By year 5, you got to be cranking on all cylinders.
And this is like his first full year starting, because last year he would have made open day roster, then he broke his foot or sprained his foot. I don't remember what but so he missed the first 3-4 months there, and then he came back. He showed a couple of games he had promise last year. Like he hit that walk-off home run. He has his speed. He's got triples and doubles through the gap. So, and when you're playing in a big ballpark like America, you need those type of skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about, we haven't touched on the pitching staff. Let's touch on them real quick. Looks like there's a lot of injuries. You got, Turnbull, who's fairly young, and Rodriguez. Anybody else we should keep an eye on in the starter position in particular, or what are you doing with the bullpen? How does that look?
I'll start with the starters, like you mentioned, Eduardo Rodriguez, who missed 2-3 months towards the end of last year. I think he's going to have a better year this year. Like when he was in Boston, I think it was he had like under a 4.0 ERA pitching in the AL East, and that's a hitters friendly division, like for ballpark wise. I think he's going to progressively have a better year. I'm thinking about a 3.60 ERA around there. I think he'll only progress with the bigger fields in the AL Central. Turnbull's coming off his Tommy John surgery, so it's going to be interesting what he did, but he had a great year when he pitched last in 2020, 2019. He pitched that no-hitter against Seattle a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So he has all the mechanics to work well. And then you go to the next guy, he's going to be missing the first 1 or 2 starts, but we signed Michael Lawrence in from the Angels, and he previously played for Red Sox. He's a good addition. He'll get you some innings. So like he's a good veteran leader. So I can see like him, and if everything works out, he's re-signing for another year, or flip him at the deadline for more prospects. From there, this is where things get hairy. Matt Manning is supposed to be like a top prospect, but he struggled all spring.
Appreciate your honesty. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
6.43 ERA and 5 starts this spring. Yeah, that's what we call not getting it done.
He's just working on the fastball. He's not really giving it to him yet.
But he's shown promise when he's pitched in the big leagues, like during the season. Yeah. So let's see. I heard he's the odd man out in that rotation. So if a trade comes through, Matt Manning has the most trade value outside of Terry Skubal, but he's out and Tigers announced they're not going to trade him because even though he's one of the guys hurt, then
Gotcha.
I think Manning might be flipped at the deadline because I think like we might be able to fetch someone, like maybe flip into the Yankees who actually need a pitcher right now with all their injuries.
Tell us about it.
No, thanks for bringing that
Actually,
up.
don't tell us about it. Yeah.
I'm just saying. I just say the reports I've read to say Tigers are willing to move one of their pitchers to the Yankees if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
We always appreciate, the feeder system that is the Detroit Tigers in our New York Yankee headquarters here. Bullpen wise, who would you say the closer is? Is it
Closer right now? I think it's Alex Lang. He has the stuff to be a closer. It's going to be between him or Jose Cisnero, but Cisnero struggled all spring training too. I think he had like a 4-point-something ERA and everything. He's still working on command issues, but Lang has like the nasty like slider and everything to have the tools for a closer.
Okay, excellent. So let's do this, gentlemen. Let's Dave, if you want to bring up the Vegas Insider over unders for each team in the division as we guess, the total number of wins for the season, and whether we agree or not with what Vegas Insider has to say. We can talk about these other teams as well, and kind of get a feel for the competition for the Tigers in the AL Central. So David, if you would, I guess let's start with the Tigers.
Definitely.
Brendan,
Definitely.
So Dave, give us the number, I guess.
68 and a half. I mean, to me, that seems low. Like, I don't know. I just feel like they're going to win more than 70 games. I don't see them losing 96 games like they did last year. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. I just looking at the roster, going through some of the things they have going on. There is some young talent. I don't know. I'm going to say over on that because I just feel like they're going to be better than 68 and a half wins. What do you say, boys?
I had 72 in mine, 10 games under 500. So I will take the over on that as well. Brendan?
I'll take it over. I said about 74 at the beginning of the year. I think they're going to finish fourth in division. I'll explain who's first, second, and third when we get to there. But I think with that Giovanni Soto trade during the offseason, I think they got the better end of the deal with Nick Matin and Matt Viersling. I think they'll make a big addition right away. And if Parker Meadows gets called up and everything, they should be fine. And then I think Austin Meadows is going to have a better year than he had last year too. I think he'll maybe.
And Javi Baez is a sneaky good trade, signing from last year.
Yeah. And I think the pitching staff, if they stay healthy this year, they should be fine. Chris Fetter's been doing a great job with the bullpen. Like the bullpen was actually one of our strong points last year. So.
Do you like the manager? Real quick before we get to 16.
I like AJ Hinch. I think we have the right man to the job. I just think we need more in our farm system / maybe a couple more star players. Like if you look at my Tigers from 2013 when we had Scherzer, Verlander, Cabrera in his prime, and Victor Martinez and JD Martinez, now you're looking at like the opposite, like after Cabrera, who's probably like the most legacy player on that team right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just, for the record, I knew his name, but I won't say it because I don't, as a practice, put vile things in my mouth. So I wouldn't say his name out loud. Dave, I'm joking. We hate him because of the Astros. But he is a good baseball man, I believe. Dave, who's next?
Yeah, I think this team, I think we can. Well, I think we could spend the least amount of time on is the Kansas City Royals, also at 68 and a half. I really don't see all that much. I mean, when they have to go out and get Zach Greinke, who's way past his prime, and go out and get Aroldis Chapman, who promptly like falls down the stairs and gets hurt. Just typical. Brendan's shaking his head for those of you not watching on YouTube. I mean, it's just hilarious.
It's just bad.
68 and a half. I just don't see anything exciting about the Royals. I'm going under.
I'll say the same. When you said the Royals, I thought around 60. So I'll go under as well. Brendan, what say you about the Kansas City Royals 2023 season?
I had them at 70 because I think they're going to spoil some games from teams. They have they have a couple of good players offensively, like Bobby Witt Jr. is phenomenal.
Yeah,
And
Perez can hit some bombs for sure.
Vinny's decent, like Vinny Palmasquito. I don't know how to pronounce his name right. I do apologize.
No, you're good.
He showed some potential. MJ Melendez is a good eye to keep on, catcher and outfielder eligibility. So when Salvi's not playing, you'll see a lot of MJ. So I think they're going to be about steady wins. Like they're not going to do anything, but I feel like they can steal some wins from team in that division.
Okay. A bullish outlook on the Kansas City Royals.
Kansas City Royals, yeah.
Brady Singer's only getting better like each year. So a former first.
Well, I mean, Brendan is Mr. Positive. If you follow him on Twitter, he's always telling how he loves people and wishing them a good day. And you can feel the honey dripping from the like button.
Nice.
So sappy, but it's awesome, buddy. Keep it up. Seriously.
Yeah.
Next team.
Yeah, I think this is where it gets really, really interesting. And I think Vegas Insider, and we have found over the years, for the most part, very, very close. The Chicago White Sox at 83.5. New manager, hoping to be healthy this year. No more
Methuselah's gone.
Methuselah is gone. He's
that's what my nickname was, Brendan, for Tony La Russa.
So you've got Pedro Griffol. I haven't seen the pronunciation there, so we'll see. Jose Abreu's not there anymore, but the rotation's still really, really good.
Giolito's got to bounce back.
Right, Giolito's got to bounce back. They have Benintendi. We'll see how he does.
It's their turn to have Elvis Andrus this year. They're the team this year that has him.
There's no way they can be worse than last year, right?
You would think,
they were so disappointing. They really were selling and looking like they were going to be a team that just took the division easily and really competed in the American League. And boy, the heart of that team just dropped right out. Just showed no toughness. I don't know. So
83.5 on the White Sox.
So I'm going to say under. I think they're 500 at best, which is splitting hairs, but that's what you do in gambling if you're into that. So I'll get that out of the way. Under, I think, even with bounce back, I just don't believe in this team. They're going to have to really prove it to me. Brendan?
I think it's about right. Like there's some question marks on that team. Like I think they have a too crowded in the outfield. Like you have like Andrew Vaughn, AJ or Benatello. You have Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Coasis.
They're all the same player, yeah.
But they have a crowded outfield, and it never works good. If you ever see teams with these crowded outfield, they're gonna have to make a move to get one of them. Like their pitching staff, Dylan Cease is like ace material, but Lucas Giolito has to get back to his old self and everything. Then they also
Lance Lane's got a lot of miles on that. I mean, it's a rubber arm, but a rubber brand's
Lance
great.
Lane will get him innings, but with Liam Hendricks out of the year with his cancer treatment and everything.
Yeah,
I just don't think their bullpen's going to keep up with their games. Like outside of Aaron Bummer, maybe.
That dude's a bummer.
Sorry.
Oh, geez.
Or granddad jokes.
Interesting. Yeah, I was kind of thinking that they'd be a little bit over. And maybe it's just 84.
You look at the names and you go, man, they really should. Moncada just never. I don't know. It's a very frustrating team. I'm glad I'm not a fan of theirs.
And outside of Benatelli, they really didn't do anything in the off season.
Yeah, they're definitely banking on the majority of the team that was there last year being healthy and having bounce back years. There's no doubt. I mean, you can see that.
I think,
and the managerial change.
I think is going to be huge. So we'll see.
Yeah. So
Twinkies, buddy.
Yeah, the Twinkies, 84.5. So not that much better.
I'm sorry.
I mean, last year we thought this was a team that was gonna, take off. I remember we were talking about that this team's gonna win the division, and they just did not do well last year. I mean, they got Sonny Gray in their rotation. Like,
Monday back to this year.
What's that, Brendan?
Medea is back this year too. He missed all of last year.
Yep. Oh, and they signed Yankee fan favorite Joey Gallo to a 1-year contract in the outfield. So there's 170, 180 strikeouts if he plays every day. So they
That's
got
right.
that
They
going
have
for him.
Byron Bruxton, who's always healthy, to replace him. Wait a minute.
Brian
Oh.
Buxton.
Yeah.
Brian Buxton is not always healthy, is he?
No. And
He's
then
so
of
good if he could
course
be.
you have the drama-filled Carlos Correa. He's with the Giants. He's with the Mets. Oh no, he's actually back with the Twins. So, we'll see what happens there. I mean,
I'll
was
ask both of you: is he worth
underwhelming
all of
last year.
that? Has he ever been worth all of that drama and the bidding war and the physicals and all that? Really, has he ever really been that player to you guys?
You want to hear my first opinion? He's not a top 10 shortstop in the league.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Correa, he's had some good years in the postseason with the Astros, and so that kind of,
I'll give him that.
he's able to hang his hat on that. But yeah, when you go and say, is he, one of the top shortstops, and I mean,
And
2021, he hit 26 home runs, and that's his high number. He's consistently over 100 strikeouts, which whatever. I guess kind of everybody is.
The Gary Sanchez experiment ended quickly in Minnesota, though. I don't see his name on the catcher's roster. Where did he land? I don't remember.
I think he's still with the team, but he's like in the minors now.
Oh,
I think he got reassigned to like AAA. I'm not 100% positive.
I don't see. Dave, did you say 84 and a half?
Yes, 84 and a half for the Twinkies.
I guess I'm down on all of them. I don't see it. This whole division's terrible, really. Well, we haven't gotten to one team that I think isn't terrible, but I don't know. I just don't see it at all. I don't like this collection of players. I don't see how they complement each other. They can't stay healthy. Just reclamation project after reclamation project. Apparently I'm very down on the Twins, gentlemen. I didn't know I felt that strongly until just now.
That's a problem because I have them winning 89 games actually.
Okay.
89. I mean, you're starting to look at. I mean,
somebody's got to win these games,
right? Somebody's got to win the games, right? And so,
but remember, this is a balanced schedule, so you're not playing all those games in the division anymore.
But like Tyler Mahle did decent in Cincinnati last year. Jose Miranda has the power they need. If Buxton stays healthy, he's like top tier.
Oh, he's incredible when he plays. Incredible.
And then I think they have one of the best bullpen pitchers in the league with Juan Duran.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I think that will help their bullpen if they need a guy to come out of the pen. I think he's going to be more of the closer this year there than he is going to be a mid-inning guy or holder closer guy. And then I think Jorge Polanco is going to get back to his year he hit 280. So
yeah, Jorge Polanco there at second base. Yeah.
The only question mark I have on that team is their catcher. I don't even know who.
They picked up Christian Vasquez.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's not. He can give you some pop here and there, but I mean, he's a steadying presence behind the plate.
He reminds me of Tucker Barnhart.
Okay, that's fair. It's a good comp. So, Dave, the Cleveland Guardians?
The Cleveland Guardians, yes. The top team, and 86 and a half is what Vegas Insider
says.
Not
a lot of respect for this division.
No, not a lot at all. It seems to me like, when you look at some of the other teams in the other two divisions, well, you think where they're going to find some of their wins. It's going to be in the AL Central.
Right. Brendan, I'll let you go first.
I think it's going to be lower, honestly. Yeah, I think they kind of fluked everyone out last year with the good year they had. Jose Ramirez is still I actually picked him number 1 in my fantasy league this year. I picked him number 1 overall. Yeah, I think he's that dude for them. But like outside of that, like Shane Bieber is so inconsistent. Like 1 year he's good, and 1 year he's not that good.
Right.
Tristan McKenzie went under MRI today. He might be having Tommy John. I don't know for sure, but he said he felt like
Either way, he's banged up, right?
yeah. Their bullpen, I really can't, other than Clase, I can't really name a guy out their bullpen this year. Like, and I think Clase is going to take a little step back. I think he's going to be with not as good as last year, but he'll still be decent. But like outside of Jose Ramirez, like their offense kind of lacks. I think like Josh Naylor had like 18 bombs last year or something like that, and that was like the guy behind Jose Ramirez for homers. And then Stephen Kwan, I think, was a fluke. Like he bat like he went like had like 300, but I don't think he's gonna be that. I don't think he's the answer for a long time outfield. And there's just question marks all around that team.
Yeah, I think Kwan's interesting because he's speedy, and when you look at some of the rules changes, with the increase in the bags and size of the bags and all the rules, and thinking that the stolen base is going to be more of a factor, I could see him playing more of a factor. I think the other piece there is Josh Bell comes in, and which Josh Bell do you get? Do you get the guy that hit 301 in 100 games with Washington, or do you get the guy that hit 192 in 53 games with San Diego? I think obviously Cleveland is banking on getting the Josh Bell that was good in Washington. Both of those parks are hitters parks. So it's not as if he was in this, huge ballpark in either one of those cities, but they're looking for him to hit some home runs and help their offense a little bit, which I think outside of Ramirez is a bit of a struggle there. So
I think the only concern for Bell is he has never played in the American League. I know there's a new split like NL, AL teams, but he's never really played a full season in the AL. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Brendan. We're still transitioning right to the DH in both leagues, and I think you can still say that. I know I still have that mentality. Players going from from American League to National League, even though the teams have been playing each other for years, you still see that adjustment period that goes on. So I think that's valid.
No, very good salient point. Go ahead, Brendan.
Like, I don't think it's going to be much of a difference in the next 2-3 years, but like right now it's still like in the transition period for that. So we'll see how that transitions.
So 86 and a half.
So Brendan, give us your 1, 2, 3, if we didn't suss it out from all this over under talk in the American League Central.
So when I made my predictions, give me a second. Let me pull this back up. Sorry, I had it. I made my division by division predictions this year. And this year I had the Guardians actually winning the division by 1 game over the Twins, then the White Sox, then the Royals, then the Tigers. But for granted, this was in January 1st of 2022.
Okay. So lots happened, in baseball since then. So do you want to take this time on the fly to make any adjustments? We can, since the first pitch hasn't been thrown in anger yet, we can allow adjustments up until opening day.
I think Twins are going to run away with the division this year. Honestly, I think Guardians will be a postseason team. They're going to sneak in a wild card. I don't like how they do the new wild card thing. Like I'm all for it for teams, but I don't think it should be 3 or 4 teams from each division making the playoffs. Personally,
right. I think the teams that win the division are going to be sitting around a lot longer than they're going to be. It's going to be an awkward rest bit, but we got months to talk about that.
But so I think it's going to be Twins, Guardians,
Twins, Guardians, White Sox,
then Royals or Tigers. They'll be going back and forth each year for bottom. I wish we're not the Cincinnati Reds in our division.
yeah, for sure. Geez. I mean, I guess it just, I'm thinking I like the Indians. I just think of all of the teams, they're the most complete. And I agree with you too, Brendan. I think Clase will take a little bit step back. I mean, he had just an unbelievable year last year. And a lot of times you'll see that step back a little bit, but I still think he's the best closer in the division. Assuming, Liam Hendricks, like when he comes back, it's going to take a while for him to get into the mix of things. So I think that helps solidify Cleveland in the top spot. But I think you're right. I think the Twins are going to be there. The White Sox are going to give some
Correct me
fight.
if I'm wrong, Dave. Last year, I remember when the Yankees played Cleveland, that their bullpen, while young, gave us fits. They just, matched up incredibly well against us. And so that'll be interesting to see now that they've matured a little. If someone steps up besides Class A.
Yep.
But you're right, he was otherworldly last year, and you just can't, very few have ever repeated that over time, so we'll see. And he doesn't have, in my opinion, a repeatable motion, but that's another story again for another day.
I know we're talking about the AL Central, but
go ahead.
For your Yankees, I hate to tell you this, in my rankings I made in January, I have them in fourth in their division.
I don't think you hated to tell us that because you were laughing the whole time.
It was a big smile.
No, I'm just
so to break before I freak out, break that down for us. What does the division look like to you?
If you want, I can just go quick over every division. So I have Rays winning that division. I think their pitching staff is phenomenal, and their bullpen is really well. I think they have the most complete team in that division.
The Rays.
Yes. I think they're always a sneaky team. You don't expect them to be good, then they come out of nowhere swinging. Then I have the Blue Jays. Literally. I think that Blue Jays lineup is going to be scary. From top to bottom, they're probably a guy. If you intentionally walk one guy, there's the next guy you have to worry about. Then I put the Orioles.
They've
I think
told me that every year for 3 years. So you let me know when that shows up.
Yeah, I mean, they did look. They did win 92 games and make the playoffs last year. So they're right there. They're right there. Yeah. All right. So then you said you have the Orioles in third place.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I think their pitching sucks. Honestly, they need help with their pitching. I think Grayson Rodriguez will help them with that. But I think they're gonna have a comeback year this year.
And
then
the Yankees.
Then the Red Sox.
Wow.
Well, I mean, last place is easy. The Red Sox are trying to finish last at this point.
The Yankees in fourth place is my second most crazy thing. And that last crazy hot take is I have the Diamondbacks finishing over the Dodgers this year in their division.
Wow.
You know what? It's not that crazy. Zach Gallen got slept on last year as a Cy Young candidate. I think, we'll break it down with Steve, but
we'll get there.
We'll
get there
with
Jeremy. But
they're going to be. I'm with you. They're going to be very good. I don't know if I can get on board with better than the Dodgers, but good for you, man. You got takes. You got hot takes. You're clearly your knowledge of this division and baseball in general, it runs deep, buddy. So we appreciate you being on with us, and we will certainly keep our predictions on record. So at the end of the year, we can come back and review them, see how we did. Certainly, we'll check in also if anything major happens along the way with your team. In the meantime, hit us again with the podcast name and where we can find you on the IG and all that.
So we're the Christian Music Bro podcast. We have an Instagram page and a Facebook page. We're not on Twitter yet because we're not that fancy. But you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, any other media platforms you can find us on. And we also have a YouTube channel where we drop our videos in with our things. Like you said, we had a few artists with us. We had a Winter Jam artist with us. We just had a former lead singer, Hawk Nelson, coming out. There's an episode coming out this week with that. So we have artists joining us like crazy. And I still have 18 more artists to schedule.
Excellent. Wonderful. We wish you all the success on that Christian Bros podcast, or Christian Music Bros.
Yep.
Podcast. Christian Music Bros. Check it out. Let them know how they sound, and let them know you heard it here on Think Tank Sports, because we think and you listen as we strive for 5. Good night.